in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, Francis Donald here. Welcome to this second of 4 Gemini pre-full moon meditations. I'll be sitting in for Michael, who is traveling. There's a couple of keynotes for this meditation. The generic keynote is aspiration, and I'll give a quote for that, and then the specific Gemini keynote is resurrection. So all 4 of these webinars feature the artwork of Nicholas, primarily Nicholas. There's a few Svetislav Roerich paintings, but most of them are Nicholas Roerich's. So this quote's on aspiration. Through fiery aspiration and through the removal of all impurity comes the perfecting of the bodily powers and of the senses. Though the 2 causes of the perfecting process are aspiration and purification, yet these 2 form really only one and are the 2 aspects of the discipline of the probationary path. The breath of God is felt as the cleansing breeze also, and is the response of the soul to the aspiration of the disciple. The soul then inspires the lower man. Okay, then a couple of quotes on resurrection. I'm using some new imagery this time through. In the cycle which Christ will inaugurate after his reappearance, the goal of all the religious teaching in the world will be the resurrection of the spirit in humankind. The emphasis will be upon the livingness of the Christ nature in every human being, and upon the use of the will in bringing about this living transfiguration of the lower nature. The proof of it will be the risen Christ. This way of resurrection is the radiant way, the lighted way, which leads from one great expression of divinity in man to another. It is the way which expresses the light of the intelligence, the radiant substance of true love, and the inflexible will which permits of no defeat or withdrawal. These are the characteristics which will be declarative of the kingdom of God. And this second quote on resurrection. Christ can draw upon the energies which are defined by the phrase life more abundantly, because they will set loose in the Aquarian age in a new and dynamic manner the new energies needed in order to bring about restoration and resurrection. This new energy is the implementing force of universality. It concerns the future. This inflow of Aquarian energy is one of the factors which will enable the Christ to complete his task as world savior and world teacher. Okay, so now we'll begin our meditation. I'm going to start this time with an Om. Let us withdraw our consciousness from the personality and its vehicles and enter deeply into the presence of the soul. Let us feel ourselves established as souls within the field of light, love, and spiritual power. From a comfortable sitting position, withdraw your consciousness up into your astral body, which should be still, quiet, limpid. And then lift your consciousness up into your mental body, which should be calm, quiet thought. And from there, lift your consciousness to the level of soul awareness. Now let us merge ourselves as separate souls into a deep sense of the group soul. This group can be those of us who are gathered today, the Morya Federation, or a group that you are involved with. Now let us expand outwards so that we might imaginatively unite as a group soul with the spiritually minded people of the world and with all men and women of goodwill. Now let us visualize the group soul merging into the one soul of humanity. Realize that there is no my soul and thy soul. Deeply realize not is, but me. Now, in accordance with what you understand to be your soul ray, imagine a potent point of tension fed by the will aspect of the soul. And imagine that point beginning at the mental unit and forming the foundation of the antakarana. If you know your soul ray to be the first ray, visualize in the color red. Second ray, indigo blue. Third ray, green. Fourth ray, yellow. Fifth ray, orange, which is a deep yellow. Sixth ray, silvery rose or light blue. The seventh ray, violet. If you don't know your soul ray, use the second ray, indigo blue. Now, in conjunction with your soul ray, visualize the ray of your personality. If you know the ray of your personality, use the appropriate color. You'll see them here. And imaginatively visualize the soul and personality dual colored rays forming together the antakarana or rainbow bridge, and thus connecting your lower mind beginning at the mental unit and projecting upwards towards the monastic permanent atom. You can form this bridge in whatever way feels most natural, weaving these two colors together. And again, if you're not sure about either of either the personality or soul rays, use indigo blue. Once you feel this bridge stretching upwards to the monastic permanent atom, then imaginatively visualize it stretching even further to the Buddhic and the Atmic permanent atoms of the spiritual triad. Now let us imagine our individual antakaranas merging with the group antakarana, which is colored with all the 7 colors, being made up of all the 7 rays, but primarily the deep indigo blue of the second ray, both reaching into the realms of the spiritual triad. Your individual antakarana and ray qualities and the individual antakaranas of all of the group members with their ray qualities are visualized as part of the group antakarana. Attempt to deeply feel this interwoven connection. Inwardly and in continued identification with the group soul, affirm the great word of power, I see the greatest light. As you imaginatively project a line of vivid, living white light into triadal realms, along across the individual and group antakaranas from an established point of individual and group tension on the mental plane. Now let us, while in the presence of this great light of the spiritual triad, attempt to feel the presence of the great white brotherhood, the Lodge of Masters, the spiritual hierarchy of our planet. With heartfelt gratitude, inwardly offer your salutations to the masters and to the head of the hierarchy, the Christ. Salutations to the Buddha, the Lord of light and wisdom. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all masters. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom we work most closely. Salutations to the Master Morya. Salutations to the Master Kuthumi. And the salutations to the Master Dual. Salutations to the spiritual hierarchy of our planet. Now let us imaginatively raise our thoughts to Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known, and with deepest reverence and in all humility, let us attempt, identified as the group soul, to attune with the presence of Sanat Kumara, standing at the center of Shambhala. Let us sound a long, silent as we imagine the group imbued with his energy. Let us realize that Shambhala is the planetary center through which the energies of the constellations and the planets initially enter according to the law of assembly, especially in full moon opportunities, to be distributed to all sentient beings upon Earth. Now let us align just briefly with the spiritual qualities emanating from the three planetary rulers of the sign Gemini. First, Mercury, which is the exoteric ruler, and reveals the nature of the pairs of opposites. Next, Venus, the esoteric ruler, which unites the pairs of opposites. And finally, the Earth, the hierarchical ruler of Gemini, which is the field of our service. Now let us raise our imaginative group consciousness to the solar logos, expressing through our sun in the solar system. Attempt to feel that the great second ray of the solar logos, the God of love, wisdom, is pouring through all the planets, Shambhala, and into every monad, soul, and personality on planet Earth. Now from this place of high ascent, let us expand further still, using our imagination, extend upwards to the constellation Gemini, radiating the light of interplay. This is a line of light beams revealing that which opposes, or the basic duality of manifestation, the relationship of spirit and form, the light of interplay. It is the conscious light of that relationship. Now let us open ourselves to feel the energy quality of Gemini, attempting to realize its profound relation to the second ray of love, wisdom, and via Mercury, Venus, and the Earth to the fourth, fifth, third, and second rays, respectively. Mercury for the fourth, Venus for the fifth, the Earth for the third, and that which brings them together in the second. Now let us attempt to realize the connection of the Gemini energy to the forces of reconstruction, which makes possible the rebuilding of human civilization and the planet, according to the plan indicated by the forces of restoration. The entire process pursued in an illumined manner within the light shed by the forces of enlightenment. Now let us ponder deeply the mantra of Gemini. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. Attempt to grasp the esoteric meaning of this mantra. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. Now let us shift our meditative focus to the Christ and the Buddha, realizing their brotherhood as they represent the West and the East, and the spiritual union of these two hemispheres. Attempt to realize the manner in which they stand for the constellation Gemini, the brothers in the light. Let us ponder on the following words from the last sermon of the Buddha. While subject to sensations, let him continue so to regard the sensations that he, being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from those sensations. Let us affirm in ourselves the fact that we can be strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful in the overcoming of the grief which arises from the body's cravings, and resolve to do so. with profound gratitude to the Buddha for all he has done to illumine humanity, let us now refocus our attention on the Christ. With the utmost heartful attentiveness of which we are capable, let us listen inwardly, imagining that we hear the Christ sounding the great invocation. Let us allow a period for the silent absorption of this imagined sounding. We're told that on each of the 3 days of preparation prior to the full moon, the Christ is said to speak the great invocation alone. Again, listening inwardly with great care, let us imagine the Christ and the entire hierarchy intoning the second stanza of the great invocation. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. Let us contemplate the deep significance of these words. Now let us imagine the love of God pervading humanity and the planet. Let us see a human race characterized by right human relations, and our planet expressing its great second ray soul. On each of the 3 days before the day of the Gemini full moon, Christ and his hierarchy are said to emphasize a distinct keynote. In imagined concert with the Christ and the spiritual hierarchy, let us contemplate the second keynote, described by Master DK as follows. The keynote of resurrection, emphasizing the new note of livingness, of the living Christ, and of that life more abundantly, which wars, privation, and suffering have made possible by forcing a return to the real values. Let us envision the spirit of resurrection and a response to the life more abundantly, growing in ourselves and in all human beings. Let us imagine that we may express this new note of livingness. Let us now affirm our solidarity with the Buddha, the Christ, and the assembled hierarchy. Let us seek to identify with them and to merge our purpose with their purpose. We imaginatively merge with them and bless the world in silence. Let us pause for a moment of appreciation for the illumined, loving energies of the constellation Gemini and feel ourselves imbued with these energies, which are growing in strength as the full moon approaches. As if in unison with the Christ, the hierarchy, and all disciples in the world, let us sound together the second stanza of the Great Evocation, sensing the manner in which hierarchical love leads to life more abundantly and the resurrection of the Spirit. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. Thank you all for attending today, and we'll meet again tomorrow at the same time for the Gemini Keynote contact. So until then, goodbye for now.